Okay, so here we are on the foredeck. I don't know, what are we, like 4 or 5 days since I recorded, since my last confession, and we've taken off the. As you can see, um, there's no pulpit. We have those 4 dark circles with 3 holes in each. That was the pulpit, and then you see the lights. The 2 lights are on the toe rail there, and then general holes in other places. There's one. Hold on a second. There's one over here. This one, and I think this one over. Those 2 over there, and then back here, these 2 here. These are all for ways of holding down, like the whisker pole and the stuff for the spinnaker. This is the main cleat holes, and then up there underneath the ladder you see the holes for the chocks, the marks from it. And then way up here, this guy, we've taken out 2 of the holes that were here, and this is for the forestay. So we let the car go by. That's for the forestay, and then around the top, this will make you sick. You're gonna fly upside down for a second. Don't throw up. Around here, you can see that there are 5 big flathead bolts. I think they're 9/16 on the inside of the boat, and those are gonna be a bitch to get out, I think. What blew me away is how not difficult it was to take these guys out. They were all, every one of them had been leaking, probably for years. Every one of them had rust on it. But this was very different than my experience as a mechanic trying to get bolts out of, rusted bolts out of an engine or out of a chassis that's locked up. They all just backed right off, with one person on the inside, one on the outside. This is the hose pipe hole right here, and that actually came out really easy too. Let's see if there's enough of light. What we're gonna see here, right along the edge, you see that the deck here is much, much thinner than I thought it was. There's just maybe a 1/4 inch of, if the light will adjust. Oh, that's better. So way down here, there's a 1/4 inch of fiberglass. This is balsa, end grain balsa, and then maybe another 1/4 inch or less even of, we're looking at my fingernail, by the way. That's the thing that I'm using to point. A 1/4 inch or less of decking fiberglass, and that is much, much thinner than I thought it would be, which explains things like, see all these cracks, all these radiating cracks up in here. This had a backing plate on it. Not a really impressive backing plate either. Backing plate almost exactly the same size as this underneath it. And you can see that the stress, and there's a big lever arm. This thing's the pulpit, right? So it's this huge lever, and when you put weight, you flex it back and forth up there, it's just this tiny spots right here that are going to resist it. And you can think if that lever's sitting up there and a body is pushing against the top of the pulpit, all those forces are going to dig down right into here, and you get these cracks along the toe rail. I got to figure out exactly what I have to do to repair those. Are those things I got to sort of Dremel out and fill? Is it once I just fix this thing and install it right, can I ignore them and paint over them? I don't know. You see some stress crack. This looks like these fractures here along the toe rail. This looks almost like an impact spot here where something fell and cracked it. Although you look at the crack and it does again radiate from one of these pressure points. Now this one right here is not from something flexing back and forth, because it was just a little light. This is a little navigation light. So in all likelihood this was water got in here, and the water gets into that grain of the end grain of the balsa, expands the balsa and cracks it, and then of course if you have freezing and thawing cycles, it's even worse, and it just creates many problems. And I guess on the larger scale, every single one of these holes simply is exactly what you're looking at. It's a hole with that little bit of thin, then balsa, and then a little bit of thin fiberglass underneath that. And that's just not the way to do things. It's not unusual at the time that this boat was built for that to be done that way, but really what needs to be done is I have to go into every one of these holes. I have to drill them out quite a bit bigger. Then I've got to take like a bent, almost like an Allen wrench that's sharpened on the end, chalk it into a drill, and then core out. Go back over here to the picture where you can see it better. Imagine this is a smaller hole, but the idea is the same. And then you got to core out all the balsa, probably back to a good, I don't know, half an inch or more, and then cover the bottom of the hole, fill the whole thing up with epoxy, and then sand it out smooth. Then you can put your holes through there. And the reason for that is now, when, not if, but when the bedding fails and water begins to get in underneath those screws, it's not getting into balsa and causing it to rot. It's just epoxy. There's nowhere for the water to go in the epoxy, and the most that happens is you start to get drippage on the inside of the boat, and then you know, oh, okay, my bedding has failed and it's time to go redo it. Because what really can destroy a boat is when these holes let lots of water in, you get lots of rot. The rot begins to run all the way back to to like out here, and now you've got to take the whole top section of the deck off, get rid of the core, and replace it. So that's the job that's in front of us for the entire deck. And let me give a sense, by the way, of the entire deck. So it's that stanchion, and of course the hinges here, and the backing of the dogs there. Actually, this whole thing, that shouldn't be, that's all going to go anyway, to be honest with you. This whole hatch has to go because there's going to be a mast here. But then as we start moving aft, we begin to get a sense of how the more complicated Bermuda rig creates an awful lot of holes in the deck. So there's a few holes, right? Everywhere you see something, this has to be, I have to do this to it. But then, look at this. We get into the plates for the spinnakers. Start counting them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Focusing on my fingers. Let's just estimate somewhere around 1 billion. Also out there on the tow rail, another spinnaker run, same way. Then as we get further aft, we run into yet another track, this right here. And then all those winches and all the tracks there. That's all stuff just because we use the Bermuda rig instead of a junk. So that's work. And, whoa, wait, there's Morgan. Hey Morgan, what? Say hi. There you go. I'm recording. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but maybe when I'm 1,000,000 years old and I'm almost done working on the boat top, I'll review it and try to remember why I started any of this. Good idea? Alright. And now, you know what? I'm going to take you guys forward and show you the underside of the V-berth. Coming forward, it also began to smell a whole lot nicer in here. Not great, but nicer. I power washed. I finally got a working power washer and power washed the bejesus out of this this peak up here, and it's beginning to smell like it might not smell horrid someday. But it's definitely stinky, and I figured out for sure it's coming from the bilge. So here we are. Look at all the light. Who ever heard of there being... Oh, it's because we left the flashlight on. Duh. Make sure I turn in that flashlight. Oh, it still works. So now we got enough holes in the bow of our boat and deck to see lots of items. So there's all our holes. Main cleat. You can see that on this boat, the center rib, center of the boat, is beefed up a bit more. But there's the that corner up there is the aft edge of the port side of the pulpit. The starboard, there's that hawse hole. That's where all of our, that's a funny word, hawse hole. And way forward there, see those 4 bolts? Those are the ones that have me, oh, I'm sorry, 5 bolts. That's what's got me a little bit nervous, is how I'm going to get all those things out. But all the wiring has to go too. So that's where we are so far. See you later.